Yes. So please forgive me. I can't answer for you two. I can only speak my own truth. And so there's a clear attempt to stop, block, disable any attempt for us to connect, to share, to exchange what is authentically true, particularly as it relates to our religion, our traditions, our practices, our culture. I even believe that there's a strong push, attempt, as it relates to mainstream organized religions, Islam, Christianity, evangelical Christianity, Judaism, all these various branches that are now also attempting to still control and dominate the narrative, particularly the narrative as it relates to the African born in America. There's still those that will continue on in the belief that we have no gods, we have no language, we have no traditions, that everything that we are is birthed from enslavement, birthed from white supremacy, birthed from the crumbs that fall from the master's table. And I include the continued propagation of these mainstream ideals and religions as a part of that machine work, as a part of that toolery. There's also this attempt as a directly to our practice and our traditions to appropriate, to bastardize, to mix it up, uh, and make it on the surface appear to be more universal, while at the same time sucking out the very life, blood, sweat, tear, heaven forbid, value that is embedded in these very traditions, for which I, for one, support uh, with my life. So I do believe there's an attempt, there's an overt and direct attempt to prevent the broadcast of these type of shows, these type of topics, this type of material, whatever the platform is that I have used. So I'm not a moving target. I'm going to continue to use more than one social media outlet to promote and to share this information, to keep revolutionary voodoo, New Orleans voodoo secrets and recipes alive. As the king and leader of New Orleans voodoo, I have an obligation to protect that for my city, for my people, for this ground, for the ancestors of this land. So there's only one house of the Divine Prince. There's only one Hoodoo Central. There's only one birthplace of Hoodoo, and it is New Orleans, Louisiana. It is Congo Square. A quick reminder, I invite you to share with us, to be here with us for the commemoration of the Middle Passage. Annually, the first Saturday of July, we commemorate the Middle Passage with the Ma'afa here in New Orleans, beginning in Congo Square, generally speaking at sunrise or 7 a.m. I invite you, July 6th, to be present. Um, my people, we are gathering and we'll be moving forward together, but I invite you to be with us, to share with us for Ma'afa, commemoration of Ma'afa again this year, 2019, July 6th. Be there with us in Congo Square. But we must keep the memory of our ancestors alive at every level. Some of you are keeping the cooking and the recipes alive. Some of you are being called to be griots and authors and writers and to tell our story and to keep our story alive. Some of us are called to be practitioners, are called to be spiritualists, authentically operating within the lineages, within our bloodlines, within these traditions. There's a role, there's a job, there's a place, there's a position for everyone who wants to be true and authentic in this. It is the shortcut that lies at the crossroad where the trickery begins on all sides. So first, don't trick yourself. Don't set yourself up for the fall. Don't set yourself up to be a fool. Don't set yourself up for the shortcut. Do the work, indeed the work necessary to move any person, place, or thing, subject, or request forward, and you will not only get the result, the evident power embedded in your request, but also all the other blessings that come with doing things right, because it's the right thing to do, and because it's in line with what is the right thing to do. It is a shortcut that often leads us into disaster. It is ego that often leads us into the corner for which we find ourselves then having to desperately struggle out of, fight out of. Thank you so much for returning with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. I also am grateful for all of the new viewers who are signing in with us for Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes here on YouTube Live. High noon U.S. Central Standard Time here on YouTube Live. I'm eternally grateful. I'm not going to be stopped. I'm not going to be limited by any buffering issues, by any streaming issues. I still don't know with clarity what that's all about. In the future, I'm going to do exactly what we did today. I'm going to pick up and we're going to keep moving. Sometimes the topic might be broken up a little bit. Sometimes I forget what the last question was that I might have been asked. But understand, we are all dealing with this technology. And this technology is in a constant state of evolution. We know Google has had problems. Therefore, YouTube has had problems in terms of security measures. So, I'm not upset. I don't get emotional, but I'm clear about my actions. When there's a problem and it becomes a consistent problem with streaming, I'm going to move to another application. I still have Blog Talk Radio account. I still have many other accounts that you all are familiar with that broadcast and have the ability to broadcast and stream and share live. I would prefer to do it here. Let me be clear, I didn't do anything but restart the show. So the buffering streaming thing could be a result of who's present. So know that I'm also screenshotting everyone who's present and who shows up in the chat, and I can make a determination as well about issues with the show. We know we got frenemies. We know we got people who are listening and are watching who don't care anything about feeding the work, but just want to see you fail. Just don't want to see you succeed. Just don't want to see or hear any of us get our message out. So we must just continue to be vigilant and true. And if you don't have a wand, if you don't have a quartz laser wand, I suggest you get one. I suggest you get one. I'm grateful for your questions and your comments. Please, if you will, type them in all capital. I'll be more than happy to address you right now here on the show. And I also want to make a general announcement, really to a handful of people, but I don't want to call your names out specifically. Some of you know and are waiting on packaging. I'm going directly to FedEx after I leave the show. So confirmation numbers will be text to you. So those of you who I'm talking to, I already got your number. I already know how to text you. You'll get your confirmation and your packages will be in the mail. Please forgive me for any delays. Filming schedule is overwhelming. So please forgive me. Your packages are indeed in the mail. And so by the end of the week, you should be good on your packages. And the people who I'm talking to know exactly who they are. It's not necessary for me to call anybody's name. I welcome your questions, your comments, your requests. If you will, type them in all capital letters so that I don't have to put my spectacles on in order to separate your greetings and salutations. I do Oracle Treehouse. Thank you so much for being present. I'm not trying to tell you business, but Oracle Treehouse been around since Yahoo 360. Oracle Treehouse been around a long time. So she is indeed one of my most consistent friends and associates within the spiritual environment here online. So she, for one, I pray, can speak to demonstration. In my first broadcast, before we got interrupted today, we talked about demonstration. Who and what you truly are, what you believe, shows up in your demonstration, and your demonstration is consistent. Your truth is consistent. Your truth doesn't waver. I do make my own wand. I don't have one in the room that I could go and run and grab and bring on camera. This, however, is a quartz laser wand. So it's a whole quartz terminator. You can see it has a rough bottom, so it has been broken off or removed from a cluster. Your quartz points typically grow like this, Oracle Treehouse. You already know. And so this would have been connected to a cluster sort of like this in its growing environment, in a river, in soft clay, embedded deep in a rock of some sort. So it would have been cleaned and separated either organically or manually. And what they do is they break them or they cut them if they can with the diamond saw. They clean them with an acid wash, which removes all the red clay and all the extra dirt dirt and minerals that normally stick to your quartz and leave sort of this darker colored exterior on it. And that's how they get it down to this. Now this is unpolished, so the surfaces have not been polished whatsoever. The surfaces of this are smooth. See that? They're like a mirror. If you want to identify an organic wand, the surface should be bumpy. It should have lines and grooves natural to it. It might feel smooth. This is smooth to the touch, but you can see the bumps. It's narrower and thicker in some areas. Sometimes there'll be a curve present in the surface. Sometimes there'll be geometry, triangles, and other symbols naturally appearing. This point of this laser wand even has multiple terminations. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show that on camera, but it has more than one point, almost like a tiny cluster, if you will, at the termination of this laser wand. Even down here where you're seeing those white circular patches, those are actually tabular. A tabular quartz is wider in the middle and flat like this, like your computer tabular. So what I'm trying to identify, these small white crystals at the top, if you had a microscope or I had a better camera, they would look like this, meaning they're double terminated. So not only is this laser wand focusing energy at more than one target because it has more than one point, it also has this two double terminated microcrystals right in here. Well, they're not quite micro because we can see them with our eye if you were here physically. You can definitely feel them with your finger. One of them has an end that terminates out this way, and then the other end of the tabby is embedded within the crystal. That has a unique meaning in quartz crystal. The one at the top is attached to the main crystal, the main wand, but both ends are free, suggesting energy that is able to move unilaterally in both directions. So there's a vortex of energy here, one at the top, one at the bottom, and the one at the bottom is then going inside the body of the crystal and coming back out like a figure eight. And then you have 6 smaller terminations here. 6 is a number that you need to understand. And then those points are able to do multitasking. Your clusters, your double terminated points are able to do multitasking. In Oracle Treehouse, I'm still with you, beloved. I'm still talking about your wands, okay? I just want to be sure people understand this wand. So when you're looking to create or to make a wand, I'm not going to tell you how I make my wands, but speaking, you want to first have gemstones that fit your wand. When you start trying to attempt to do wand making, because some of you are going to now try to attempt to do wand making, you're going to realize that it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done in terms of finding pieces that are going to fit the unique 6-sided dynamic of any given quartz piece, how wide or how narrow, and then the insulator, which is the body of your wand, then those two have to then fit. And then they have to fit without any glue, without any artificial material to interrupt the frequency, the currency within your wands. Now, I personally use copper. Copper is one of the most electrical, conductive metal minerals in the metal family. I like copper. I like the energy and the feel and the warmth of copper. Also, if you clean copper correctly and apply a particular natural organic substance to the copper, not only will it shine and vibrate like rose gold, but it'll also increase the vibrancy, the currency within your wands. Oracle Treehouse, I make wands for people. It takes a long time to do because I have to find a crystal, a stone that not only is going to serve the purpose, because this is about serving the purpose of the wand, which I want to use this wand for. And there's no better quartz, because there are many types of quartz in the family. Many of you already know this. There's no better, see, you can't use a tabby double terminated like this to make a wand. It's going to take you a great deal of work to find something that's going to fit that unique shape, space. Once you start hammering, banging, you know, depending on what type of material you're using, you're now altering frequency. Any damage you do to your stone is going to alter frequency. This laser wand, this is a unique form of quartz. Anyone can Google that. Laser wand. It has a very specific tone, a very specific hardness in terms of the quartz crystal family. It has unique usages. Many of the usages are similar to what it sounds like you would use it for, beloved. Laser implies focused work, a specific topic, a specific person, place, or thing, a specific subject. I've already clarified for you that this particular point can do several things. And yes, I know some of you can see that double terminator gleaming in the light. That's a completely embedded double terminator, but it's inside the quartz. Neither end of it extends beyond the outer walls of the wand at all. So I'm able to also use that for very specific things within the body of the wand itself. This wand is not completed in something Oracle Treehouse because I have not been able to find the right materials to fit it. That's just how complicated it is. Now, yeah, you can go to Amazon and find all kind of makeshift wands of various types and endeavors. Some people have gotten creative and they're using soldering irons and various tools and materials to create their wands. I can't speak to the power of their wands. I can speak to the power of my wands. And anyone who's ever visited my temple space here who has held my wand feels a vibration, a natural vibration moving through them. No batteries, no machinery, no trickery. It's all alchemy. It's all chemistry. That's why I say my wand. No glue, no soldering materials, nothing that's not 100% copper, gold, silver, platinum, quartz. I might use amethyst sometimes, but amethyst is very hard to find in natural form. Often it's going to be polished on the outside. More than likely, your amethyst is going to be polished, unless it's in cluster form, and then they can get a big enough piece from it to then maybe set into your wand. I do have some wands that have rose quartz. I have some wands that have citron. I have some wands that have amethyst um, as the receptive end of the wand. So my wand is going to have a projective end and a receptive end. This is a projective crystal. This is a projective quartz. This is a receptive crystal. This is a generator, So you would sit this on an altar, on your shrine, in front of you, in your hands, and use it to generate from. This is a wand, so we, just like in your tarot deck of cards, your wand represents the action in the reading. It's the homework in the reading. How do I do it? How do I fix it? How do I repair it? How do I change it? How do I go about it? What is my action? What is my activity? It's also representative of career, education, how you earn your living, personal life path choices. I smile like this because many of my people who've had readings with me have heard these words before. Many times, many times. And then, of course, your wands represent ego, self-esteem, how you feel about your power within the question, within the moment. So you can't use a wand if you're not then empowered. I like the wands because they have a built-in system of security long before we had any understanding of computers and LifeLock. Okay, there's your free LifeLock commercial. Okay, it knows your energy. It knows your fingerprints. It knows how energy moves through you and for you. So no one, no other witch, no other practitioner can pick up your wand and use it if it's authentic, if it's the real deal. Now, if it's the real thing and it's made for you and it's your wand, then it knows your energy. Just the picking it up, just the thinking about it. I can think about my wands remotely at a distance. You can't carry a wand set, unless it's part of your costume. You can't carry your wands to work often and start directing energy and things. Your coworkers might think you're a little bit crazy, okay, but you can activate your stones wherever they are if you've worked with them, if you've done the sacrifice, if you've done the work, if you've put in the time, then you should be able to connect with them remotely. Even in fantasy, we see witches in movies able to call their wand to them just on the power of intention, just on the power of consciousness. And then your once your projective quartz is in place and your receptive stone is in place, then you can activate a wand that's able to do and address exactly what you need it to do. Save, you drop it, break it, damage it. Even your quartz pieces, you then change the frequency of a stone. You might not lose the information that's embedded in the stone, but you then lose frequency once you break, chip, or damage your natural unpolished pieces. These natural unpolished pieces have a very different sound That has a high frequency sound, high frequency. Your polished stones have a dense sound. Some of you can still hear that high note. That's the silver hitting against the quartz. But that lower thud is a result of the records. Just like your old LPs, just like your old 45s, the grooves have been removed from your smooth, polished pieces. So your smoothed out, polished pieces then are more relying on what's inside them to work, what's inside them to project. And they project a universal energy. They send and receive energy evenly and universally 360 degrees. So they're more used for shielding, protection, setting up veils, setting up spaces, setting up walls, creating interiors of an idea, of a project, of a force. This is designed to send something somewhere. And in this case, because it's not double terminated, so it's not designed to receive back into my wand, the smaller pieces can, but the whole laser wand is designed to then project the thought, the idea, the energy, the spell to a particular destination. So that's how I build my wand. Even in the explanation of the building, some of you understand now intuitively how I work with my wands, what my wands are for. Oracle Treehouse. They used to be. A long time ago, I had a picture, and I'm sure somebody out there still has it, of several wands sort of laid out. But once I started evolving my website, I removed that. I didn't want to give the idea that these specific pieces are like on sale. In terms of archiving, I may, do some new pictures if you want me to, of wands that I've already done, but those wands would not be for sale. They would just be examples of the type of wands that I would create. Each one of my wands are unique. There's no two alike. There's no real similarity between each wand because each wand has a purpose, but usually a destination. Even if the destination is here, it's for a purpose. It's for a specific duty. So the wand is going to have very specific alchemy, very specific dynamics. But right now, in my new website, no, I don't have any active pictures of my wand on site right now. Yeah, and I'm happy to leave retail wand making to the people out there in the world who are already doing that. I don't have the time or the energy to make a wand. Let's say a wand that would be under $100. That I'm gonna pick a real small number that 10 people a month would want. That would overwhelm my schedule and my ability to do anything else. So I often get asked the same question in terms of Botanica and my Botanica products, even candles, oils. I have candles, oils, products. Anything a Botanica has, you can believe it. I got it in here, or I have access to it. But our business is in ministry. It's in building our community. It's in building the house. So we're talking about godchildren, clients, people who are initiating, people who are actively already initiated but working in these systems, and then they need services. They need products. They need, elders and people to go to help them work through blocks. My ministry has sort of moved more in that direction. So the Botanica supplies that I have, my godchildren have access to. My clients have access to. The depending on the service that they have hired me for. I agree with you. It's a lot of work. It's like it's work. You're running a retail store. If you're operating as a botanica, and I know there are many people who are using that in their name on Instagram, you are a store. I know legitimate botanicals. Uh, um, El Viejo Lazaro, El Viejo Lazaro in Miami. That's an authentic operating brick and mortar botanica. There are people behind the scenes that operate within the Latin community, of Hispanic community, and as it relates to this tradition. But they are a store. They are a botanica. Now, any authentically practicing conjure man, hoodoo man, voodoo priest, mambo, iya, babalawo, uh, initiate of Ifa, initiate of Fa, is going to have access to a certain amount of botanical items, either already on hand or someone that they can go, or some place where they can go and access those items. But you can't do the traditions without them. Another great curiosity to me is the overall absence of greenery, of live plants, of garden work, of dirty hands, of people claiming to be operating in these traditions. And you don't see that. All you see is glossy, cute, post, but you aren't seeing hands-on. You aren't seeing involvement in the work. You aren't seeing a connection to nature. And without nature, there's no voodoo. Without Eve, there's no Ifa. So you gotta have plants. You gotta have access to greenery. You gotta have access to nature, and the connection to nature. Uh, Many of you Westerners still fear nature. You still fear the bugs and the bees, and I might get poison ivy, and and I'm not suggesting that those are not real perils of dealing in nature, but those who operate in nature every day know how to prepare, plan, guard against. I've never gotten poison ivy ever in my life, and I've been through many woods. I've traversed many unknown to me, never discovered before by me, wooded areas. So there's always the potential for snakes, wildlife, insects, poison ivy, all those things. That's not just country. That's not just, the product of a person who lives and exists within a rural existence, but that's also the product and partial to those of us who are operating within these traditions. When the last time you've been to the river? When the last time you've been to the ocean? When's the last time you've been to the Gulf? When's the last time you've been to the woods? When's the last time you've been to the garden center in your community? We've got to reconnect to what's natural, to what's nature. One of the things that I liked in my former life about Rastafari was sort of an emphasis in that time period, because I don't know if that still exists today, on what is natural in terms of what we put in our body, what we put on the outside of our body, what we do with our body, how we expose ourselves, if you will, in everyday culture and society. Now, we live in a much smaller world today. We live in much closer confined today. And some people find that to be a barrier to them being truly organic. I'm not talking about food here, to themselves, and how they live and how they exercise within these traditions. Some people are still hiding their stuff in the closet. Some people are still hiding their stuff from their family and their friends. Some of you are still hiding, period. Even here, you're hiding. You're hiding your face. You're hiding your name. You think you're hiding your IP address. You think you're hiding. And you cannot operate in any form of spirituality tradition organically in a state of hiding, in a state of enclosure. At some point, you have to get out into the world and get out into nature and get out into the stream of energy. When we look at the yin and yang symbol with this black side and its white side and its swirling implications and its circular implications, it also suggests movement. And so you can't be a practitioner of any of these traditions, you know, a witch, whatever you want to call yourself, and not be out in the stream of movement, and then fear being out in the stream of movement, fear being buffeted by the energy and the vortexes and the forces that travel with both of these streams of energy, both negative and positive. The true centered God self says, I am. I am. Before any calamity, before any tragedy, before any block, before any difficulties, you first got to be I am. You got to be able to stand in the middle of those swirling vortexes and say, I am, in anything, at any time, first. And then be willing to humble yourself sometimes, submit yourself sometimes, flow into yourselves sometimes as it relates to the movement and the stream of energy. And then grasping that which is in your best interest, bringing down into your place of reality that which is most beneficial to you and for you right here and right now in this most present moment in divine time space. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than my voice. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than my words. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than my Mardi Gras. I'm sorry, that was a curse word. Forgive me. My carnival, black carnival suits. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than my photographs, than my movies, than my documentaries. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than any illusion, because once you put the paint to the canvas, it's an illusion. And let's be clear, life is a canvas in which we all paint on, and therefore it is an illusion, and we are able to move that paint around, move that medium around to match, to mirror, to project the image that we see, that we perceive. I pray my demonstration speaks louder than anything that might mimic, that might mirror, that might share elements of who I am. I pray my demonstration speaks in wholeness, in truth. If you have questions, please hit me with them. I do need to be on a journey. Oh, divine, all blessed. Joshua, Nyla Tanner is in the room. May the gods be praised and the ancestors. All praise and thanks to you being present. Thank you for everyone being present, especially after the technical difficulties. Some of you cut out on me early on when the streaming and the buffering wouldn't clear up. I almost cut out, but then I decided to hit that button again and to keep talking. And so I'm glad you all came back, even the new people, and joined me here in this space. We're in the business of creating and recreating our reality. We're in the business of making this outer physical plastic existence look like what we see and hear in this pyramid that exists in our consciousness. I am everywhere. Let's be clear, because my creators are everywhere. I am everywhere because my ancestors are everywhere. I just need to stand in the stream. stand in the truth. I pray you all look for me. I still can't say when. I still can't say where. Just know it's coming. Some of you already know. Just know it's coming. It's coming in the next moment. Just know it's coming. Look for it on Sundays. Look for it on ABC, but just know it's coming. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe all. Next question, comment. Yes, Jasmine Donaldson. Thank you. I certainly do appreciate you and everyone who's present here with me for Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo, Secrets and Recipes here at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live. Right now and today, we're on YouTube Live, and hopefully we'll be on YouTube Live for another decade or more to come. I don't know where I might be in 30 days. I don't know where I might be in 6 months. Just know it's coming. Just know it's coming. I know if it matches in any way my vision, because you've got to have a vision. Let me be clear. I don't want to give you the idea that I'm sort of on this ride and it's just a ride and I'm what, you know, and the depots and the stops, you know, and one stop is a little bit more glitchier than the other stop. That's not the ride that I'm on. You have got to be clear in your creation. Before you pick up a wand, you got to be clear in your creation. You've got to be standing in I am. You've got to be. No novice, no beginner is going to pick up a wand and activate its power. You're just not. You're going to build relationship. And you first got to build relationship with yourself, with clarity. So in the manifesting, you got to have a notion. You've got to have an idea. You've got to have an illusion. You've got to have a dream. You've got to have a picture of what it looks like. And every time you look at it, every time you remake it and recreate it in your mind's eye, it should become clearer and clearer. In those moments that you have doubt, in those moments that you give up, even if it's not out loud, it's inwardly, walls are breaking apart in your vision. And then you're back in the mist. Anything short of 3 sides is the mist. It's smoke. It's vapor. Your dreams exist in the smoke and the vapor. Your fantasies exist in the smoke and the vapor. They can come and go. They can be recreated and somebody knock on the door and you lose it. They can be stirred up. You can add elements to it. That's the mist. That's the dark matter. That's the space of creation, if you will. So you've got to have 3 sides to your triangle. You've got to be clear about what it is that you want to see, that you want to have, that you want to manifest as a part of your destiny, your journey, your path. Now, things will come out of the blue, things will come from the left, from the right, that you can't predict, that you can't see. I call that weather. That's the weather. It rains on everybody, good or bad. It rains on everybody, whether you have your shit together or not. It rains on everybody, whether you believe in Jesus, whether you believe in Allah, whether you Hotepu, whether you Alafia, it rains on everybody. That's weather. That's weather. How we navigate weather is what separates us, the gods and the goddesses, the kings and the queens, the prince and the princess, the practitioners from those who are still struggling against the current of their humanity. Because I talked earlier about flowing, going with the flow, surrendering to, submitting to, allowing that vortex to take place and being able to stand firm in it. Because you can't, once you start resisting, once you start going against, that shows up as problems. That shows up as drama. That shows up as roadblocks in your life. And so everybody has roadblocks. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has weather. That's weather. So you've got to have a three-dimensional triangle. You've got to have a pyramid formulating up here between your third eye and your crown chakra in order to truly then see the magic of I am and I create and I recreate my reality. I choose happiness. I choose peace. I choose success. I choose wellness. I choose to be working. I choose to be employed. I choose to be open to receiving the next opportunity to represent at any moment, at any time, because time is limitless. Time itself is an illusion. So we get caught up in, is it tomorrow? Is it Monday? Is it 9 days? We get caught up, and that then distracts us from doing the work, which is embedded in any given moment in time space. I'm doing that work right now that ensures the tomorrow, the next hour, the next moment that I want to see created. I'm building and creating my future right now. What I'm eating or drinking or breathing or saying or feeling or doing right now is feeding what's going to happen in the next moment, in the next day, in the next hour. What's happening right now is also closing off, crystallizing, clarifying, confirming what has already been laid down in the past. What has already been done, what has already been said. We can't go back now and snatch the first hour of the show. We can't go back now and reclaim 12:05 or 12:15. It's already now in the book. And so what was done, what was said, what was crystallized in that moment now births this place that we are. And in that moment, many of us choose to keep moving, push play, push continue on with this live stream. And so now we're here. And so, I smile, I joke, I make fun, but I'm trying to teach you real magic if you're hearing me. I'm trying to teach you real alchemy if you're listening. And I would hope my demonstration speaks for me. I would hope my demonstration speaks for me. My humanity is one thing. We all have humanity. And so humanity affords us certain things. We all take a dump. We all have to eat. We all sleep. We all desire intimacy. That's our humanity. So we make mistakes in humanity, ego in humanity, flesh gets into humanity, carnality gets into our humanity, selfishness gets into our humanity. I'm talking about your demonstration. When you're being viewed, when you're not being viewed, when you can be seen, when you're not being seen, when it's just you, yourself, and I, me, myself, and I, or when you're before a crowd, your demonstration speaks truth to who you are, what you know, what you understand, what you truly believe, what your true agenda is. It's embedded within our demonstration. I am grateful and honored for each and every one of you for any amount of time that you spent here with me on today. I am going to have to move forward momentarily. Ia Dava Divine, thank you so much for being present. I am going to acknowledge your question before I leave broadcast. What do I think about working the pantheons outside of those in one's DNA? For existence, calling on Morgan or Christian. I like how you said, what do I think? Because there is a what do I think, and then there is a contextual approach to the question, depending on your lineage and the path in which you're operating in. So first I want to say, in my house, DNA is a requirement. Let me be clear. In my house, DNA is a requirement. Any godchildren of mine, any priest, priestess of mine, anyone who's ever traveled through my house, including some people present in the room, they have DNA. They've already done it. It eliminates questions. Listen, let's be clear. DNA continues to evolve. Your DNA account will change no matter what service you're using. The more people, the more copies of DNA they have, the greater they're able to refine to get into specifics about who and what and where you're from. So your DNA, like voodoo, like nature, is organic. It's not a signpost. Well, it's a signpost, but it's not a stopping sign. It's not an end of the journey. Well, I got that, I've done that, now I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Now, having said that, there are certain arenas or certain areas of ethnicity, like Asian, Native American, and some of the outside of Africa and European ethnic groups that are now beginning to be better noted in terms of our tests, meaning African Americans. I'm gonna use myself for example. When I originally did DNA, I had zero presence of Native American in my test. This is including the fact that my mother also took this test. So that meant I wasn't getting any from my dad and it wasn't showing up from my mom. But then when my mom took her test, she had less than 2%, I think, in her test. And then when I took a subsequent second test, less than 2% then showed up in my test. That was 4 years ago. Since then, all of the services that I'm aware of, because I'm trying not to call out any one singular company, all of those tests have been updated. Those of us who've done it, you already know what I'm talking about because you see it. One of them, every time you sign in, they ask you, you know, have you updated? Or they'll say, you know, this is your updated result, to make sure that you understand that this updating process is taking place. So now I know I have some indigenous blood. And for many African Americans, that's the hurdle. We've got to stop saying Native American. We've got to stop saying Indian and start looking at it from a more indigenous perspective. And one of the companies in particular is now saying indigenous as a more distinct word usage. So now Native, what we used to be Native American or even Indian, is now as far north as you can go in Canada and deeper than Brazil in terms of South America. So we're looking at Belize, Honduras, the Caribbean, Haiti, Mexico. The largest number of slave burials from the time of enslavement exists in Mexico. So we're looking at a whole nother picture of what ethnicity is. Now, I'm still answering your question, Ia. So in Lukomi, for instance, Santeria, they like to have Misa. And Misa is like a seance that allows for the dead and your spirit guides, if you will, your gypsies is another word. I believe that word in Spanish is katanas, come through. And so some of you have katanas, gypsy spirits that represent lesser prominent aspects of your DNA pool, but show up in a large way in terms of spirit practice, and what they impart to your present incarnation. They have a gift, they have a power that survives all time and space, that survives history, that survives politics, that survives racialism in between those ethnic groups, that then shows up in you. I've often told the story of this I don't like to say gypsy, as opposed to Sufi spirit that has followed me since childhood, that shows up particularly on Saturdays, that enjoys Sufi music and Arabic music, particularly Arabic music, where the men and women are using the higher ranges of their voice, likes cleanliness, so you have to be actively involved in cleaning and cleanliness when this spirit comes around. So that is a partial answer to your question. Another aspect of your question I want to speak to is your word usage of pantheons. So pantheons, for me, reading your question in a literal sense, suggests just what you say, pantheons. So I'm now looking at groups of deities, Egyptian deities, for instance. Many African Americans have a strong affinity for, affection for, love for, feel for anything Egyptian. I still have it and have Egyptian stuff in my house. Statues, pictures, armory, just, for years, I had no knowledge that I had any Nile Valley blood at all. And I'm person enough to stand up and say I'm guilty of throwing rocks in the past, particularly as it related to Nuwapus and followers of Dr. York. Not that I had a problem with the teaching, I had a problem with the fact that many of them had no knowledge of just how much ethnic connection they had to the Nile Valley, if any at all. And at that time, it was not showing up in the DNA test. Now it is. Even I now have a documented blood lineage connection to Ramses III. I'm a descendant, a direct descendant of Ramses III. So we do have a connection to some of these spirits, these katanas, these spirits, these wandering giants. I feel I can't say I'm realistically in denial of your own ancestors that are closer to you. And that was a part of my argument about the romance of Egypt, was that historically, in terms of a historic timeline, over generations of your family to acknowledge a relative or a symbol of a relative that may or may not be connected to you. And again, I'm talking about those who had no DNA information. I have DNA information, but I still don't make the Egyptian pantheon to the very ancestors who were with me when I got snatched at the soul level in West Africa, when I traveled in the belly of those ships, and now I'm here on this ground. There were ancestors and deities and powers and forces that supported us through enslavement. I cannot walk over them. I cannot ignore them. I cannot operate today wholly, completely, and fully, 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 as I do without acknowledging them. So it doesn't mean that I don't know what's Asian, what's East African, what's Middle Eastern, what's Australian, what's South American that might show up in my bloodline. But I don't realistically step over my own mama, my own daddy, no matter what they may have done or didn't do, to then acknowledge 5-year-old ancestor. You just can't. And to speak to those who have problems with closer generations, I got problems with closer generations. I got problems with my dad. Okay, we don't communicate at all, but it doesn't mean that I ignore the lineage, the bloodline, particularly when it comes to your ancestors. You just can't. And some of you are adopted. Some of you don't know your parents, don't know your grandparents, your great grandparents, don't know anything about that, save what you might be getting through your DNA test. And your ancestry DNA test is not a shortcut to parentage. But if anyone in your family has taken it, they are going to show up in the results of your DNA. But in terms of the spirit practice of Eguns and acknowledging the dead, um, all have to be acknowledged. But there's a hierarchy, there's a place, there's a way of acknowledging more disgruntled spirits versus more helpful spirits. And sometimes they show up as your gypsies or those spirits that don't always line up directly with your uh, strongest lineage, but then show up at some point in your DNA. Thank you so much, Angela's ballooning budget, um, ballooning on a budget, or balling on a budget. Okay, balling on a budget. Ballooning on a budget is more like a mantra, but balling on a budget. I got you. Thank you so much, beloved, for your for your. Again, I need you to type in capital because the smaller lettering is harder for me to make out. So forgive me if I mess up anybody's name. Tanya, you've got a complicated last name. Tallahatchie, I like that. Please get your DNA testing done. That's critical. Thank you, Josh, for still being present. I sent you a message. Wow, man, I don't know. I ain't heard back. But space is available. Um, please, thank you so much, everyone, for typing your questions and comments that I need to directly respond to in capitals, making it easier for me to see. I am going to wrap up for each and every one of you. I'm open to each and every one of you. I am always open to communication, each and every one of you. Please join me here again. I do plan to be present tomorrow at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time here on YouTube Live. I thank each and every one of you for your time in the middle of your day, understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe.